They're not going to stop you. The moment you show that you're nervous, immigration officers tend to get that signal or that message that there's something wrong. Just be very confident that this is your normal route.
So alright guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Vaibhav and you're watching Scorpion VJ. So guys, today we'll be talking with a traveler who managed to travel to Toronto via the indirect route, which is Ethiopia. So today we are having Priti with us. So she will be sharing out the entire journey right from India to Canada, what all were the hustles in between the entire journey, what all laps she took, and let's talk with Priti. So the very first question to Priti is like, how was your overall experience right from traveling from India to Toronto amid the lockdown bans and all those stuff, and you managed to travel to Canada via the indirect route. So how was your overall experience?
Hi everyone, this is Preeti. I recently traveled from India to Toronto, and as we are all aware, the direct routes are definitely banned till now. So everyone who's willing to travel from India to Toronto have been doing their own research as in which is the best route to help them reach their destination. So having said that, even I did my research for a good 20 days. My family was just ready to throw my laptop out of the window. But yes, you have to do so if you really, really need to travel. So I explored a lot of options like Nepal, Sri Lanka, Egypt, Turkey. I also explored the option of the chartered flight that was flying via Cairo to Toronto. But eventually, after weighing in all my options, I funneled down to Ethiopia. And when you ask me my experience, yeah, definitely my experience was very mixed. I was definitely full of apprehensions, but thankfully and luckily, I did not have many major issues. Yes, there were minor issues. I was being checked at the immigration, or I was being stopped for some minor complications like yellow fever vaccination, but nothing major. So, overall, my journey, my experience was really, really pleasant. But if you ask me in totality, I think in terms of cost, the experience is definitely very expensive. It's not an easy option in terms of monetary funding. In terms of overall travel or transit time, it definitely takes a lot of time. I completed my overall journey in about 3 to 4 days. It was almost like 3.5 days. And in terms of checkpoints, yes, there are plethora of checkpoints because you're checked at Delhi airport, then Doha airport, Ethiopia, and then of course Canada. So definitely you have to go through multiple stages of checkpoints. You need to have your documentation ready, but we'll talk about it. All these things later in detail. But overall, my experience, I think, was a pleasant one. I was lucky enough. I did not have many major issues. Minor issues, yes, I was mentally prepared for it. So you have to be mentally prepared for the long journey that awaits for you, and then things will become much more smoother.
All right. So Priti, basically, what is the visa process for Ethiopia?
Visa process for Ethiopia, it's pretty straightforward. Not many complications. They have their online portal. You just need to go ahead and fill in your passport details. As an Indian citizen, you need to go ahead and fill in your Indian passport details. And then there is a fee of around 110 USD. Once you submit your application with all the details, they need your passport size picture, of course, a digital picture, and the first and last page of your passport copy. Once you upload these documents and you submit your application, you would probably get your visa in just about maybe maximum 11 to 12 hours. Sometimes it can go as far as 24 hours. So there's nothing major that you really need to do for Ethiopia visa. And in case if you cannot get the visa, e-visa, I mean, if you do not have the time to apply for e-visa and get it beforehand, you also have visa on arrival. They are not very strict about it, but it's when you're embarking such a long journey, it's always advisable to be prepared beforehand. So my advice or my recommendation rather would be that you go ahead and procure your e-visa before you actually book all the tickets, because that ways you know for certainty that you would be permitted at Ethiopia airport.
Okay, that's great. So basically, which flight, like, I mean, which airline you took from India to Ethiopia?
Flight to Ethiopia, there is one option. Direct flight to Ethiopia is from Mumbai, and I think it just flies once a week. So, what I did was I took a flight from Delhi because I was taking Delhi as my start point. So, I took a flight from Delhi to Doha, to Ethiopia via Doha. So, I had a 14-hour layover at Doha, and I booked a lounge for that. That makes your journey a little much more relaxing. So that's how I booked my flight till Ethiopia, and I did Qatar Airlines. Qatar, as we all know, it's a great airlines to travel with. They're pretty straightforward. Their website has all the information in terms of delays or any kind of travel advisories. So Qatar Airways, my experience was really really good with Qatar Airways.
So, Priti, how was your experience at the Indian immigration? Like, did they ask for the return ticket?
Experience at Indian immigration, yes, that was a little tricky. So when I reached with my bags at the ticketing counter, I was denied boarding, and they just told me, they actually did not deny me the boarding. They just put me on hold because they were waiting for a clarification from the immigration officer, because there was some kind of a hold asking for a yellow fever vaccination. Sorry. So, and I did not obviously have the yellow fever vaccination. So that's why they put me on hold, stating that the immigration officer still has to tell them whether that's required, that's a requisite or not. So I was put on hold for good about like 1.5 hours. We kept on waiting. Of course, I had to follow up multiple times with the ticketing officers or the officers ground staff there, but eventually the hold came off, and the immigration officers told them that it was okay for us to board the flight. Once they gave us the go ahead, then there were absolutely no issues. The ticketing happened smoothly, just like normal. They just saw my Canada work permit or my Canada documents. They saw my tickets to Ethiopia. Apart from that, I don't think they checked anything else for me. Of course, the passport. Then at the immigration, I do not have many questions. They just wanted to check why I'm going via Ethiopia to Toronto, and that's when I had a printout to let them know that via indirect route I can travel to Toronto. So after that, there were not many questions. I think one piece of advice would be just carry hard copies for every document that you have. Do not bank on your cell phones or electronic copies. Just carry hard copies. That way it's much more easier for you to give them anything that they ask for. And I think immigration officers are very comfortable with hard copies.
And guys, I just forgot to mention one thing. Please subscribe this channel if you haven't till yet, because the moment I upload any of the video, any of the update related to Canada, so it will directly come into your feed. Perfect. So after reaching Ethiopia, so how was the immigration? Was it smooth, or did they ask any specific questions?
Yeah, the immigration was smooth. There were no major hiccups. The first counter is where they actually check your RT-PCR test, and then they guide us to go to the immigration desk. The immigration officer basically, honestly, did not even ask me any question. He just saw my passport, and he asked me to obviously remove my face mask, and he did not even check my Canada documents. He just asked me if my PCR check was done. The PCR test was checked at the earlier counter, and that's it. And then they stamped me, and that was it. Pretty much, it was a very silent entry to Ethiopia. No major questions asked, so it was pretty smooth.
So the main thing for which we all are, opting the indirect route. So is there is any mandatory on arrival RT-PCR, And how did you manage to book your RT-PCR from, in Ethiopia? Because as per as the guideline by Canadian government, you should have your RT-PCR from the last point of departure, and that should not be India and Pakistan. So how did you manage all this stuff?
It's not mandatory to do a RT-PCR test at Ethiopia, but if you have to take a different flight or if you have to travel internationally, then Ethiopia definitely requires a PCR test. But at the same time, once you reach the hotel, they did not let us go out of the hotel rooms till the test was done or till the reports came out to be negative. So that's a given with Ethiopia once you reach Ethiopia. So once we reached Ethiopia, we checked into the hotel. The hotel that I took was luckily just 8 minutes away from the airport. So, and there was a shuttle waiting for me at the airport. So I basically did not have any interaction with the outer world. I got off from the plane. I had my PCR test checked. Then I went to the immigration counter, got my passport stamped. And as I was exiting the airport, of course, we have to pass through the customs as well. Customs is a little strict with jewelry. So it wasn't me, but I saw a fellow passenger being questioned for her jewelry. So just be careful about those normal routine stuff, nothing major. Then, as soon as you exit out of the airport, not exactly exit, but just inside the airport, once you exit the customs, the shuttles will be waiting for you, whichever hotel you pick up. Of course, there are a couple of hotels that have their complimentary shuttle to the hotel from the airport. So you would see someone with the shuttle with your name. So they would just match your name, they would see your ID, and then we were taken to the shuttle directly from the exit gate. The shuttle took us to the airport, which was just about like 5 or 6 minutes drive. Not even 5 or 6, I would say just 2 or 3 minutes drive. And once we reached the hotel, we were asked to go in the room, and the PCR test was scheduled for the following morning. 8 o'clock is when they actually 8 o'clock in the morning is when they start the PCR tests. And the good thing is that the nurse or the technician, the lab technician, would come to the hotel, pick up your sample, and they will deliver the results right at the hotel. And they charge some 100 USD. If you have cash, that's absolutely great. But if not, then make sure that your credit cards or your debit cards are working in Ethiopia. So just be prepared for that part of testing.
All right. So Priti, I just forgot to ask one thing. So how did you book your hotel at Ethiopia, and like how you travel? What was your mode of transportation from Ethiopia airport to your hotel?
It's pretty straightforward process. I somewhere when I was doing my research, I came across a hotel, Ethiopian Skylight. It's a good hotel. I booked the hotel online. I called them up and I pre-booked my COVID test. So you talk to them, you let them know that what time you're arriving and what time do you have to get out of the hotel. So, for example, I was arriving on the 17th, I think, around 12 o'clock in the night, midnight on the 17th, and I had to, vacate the hotel next day around 6 p.m. So I asked them what are my options because, in the normal course, you have to vacate the hotel at around 12 o'clock. So that's when they offered me that, okay, you can pay for 1.5 days and you can stay till like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever works for you. So that's the option that I selected. Pretty straightforward booking. Just go online, book it yourself, and then you call them up and ask them what time the COVID test or the technician can come to the hotel. How would the sample be taken, and in the sense that would it be taken at the hotel or do you have to go somewhere, and then when will they deliver the results. So for example, the PCR test that I took, they had an option of express results. So my result came just like in 6 hours, but they have other options. If you have time, then maybe you don't need to spend that kind of money, and you can go for a an option which will give you more time, or which will give them more time to give you the results. So it just depends on your time and your pocket, whatever works for you, opt for that option. When it comes to food, I personally love Ethiopian food, so I was really, really happy and excited. But not a lot of people like Ethiopian food. But always call the hotel and ask them for the vegetarian options. Uber Eats does not work there, so you might have to just rely on whatever options are available at the hotel unless you're carrying food from India. So these are our options. Vegetarian options are not many. Honestly, they'll have fruits, and especially if you're going in for complete eggless meal, there may be not many options unless you love Ethiopian meal. Then there could be some options. So food was not a problem for me, but please call up the hotel, check with them. Or advisable thing is, if you're very restrictive, if you have food allergies, then please carry some food with yourself. And this I would recommend throughout the journey. Do carry food with yourself.
All right. So as of now, you are having your RT-PCR report negative, and you have already stayed at Ethiopia, if I'm not wrong, for a day or two. And now the thing is, you have to go to the airport. So basically, how many hours before you reached airport, and how many hours before one should reach airport? What is your suggestion?
Airport, the Ethiopia airport, at around 7 o'clock, and my flight was supposed to board at 10:35. I was really lucky that I did not have any major issues or no questions were asked, but there were a lot of fellow passengers, and abruptly, one of the officers came and he actually took their boarding passes and their passports. Literally snatched the boarding passes or their passports from their hand, and he just told them that we need to validate your documents. And so this is something that you must be mentally prepared for if it happens at all. So I would really recommend that you go to Ethiopia airport at least 5 to 6 hours before your journey. That way you'll have much more time in case if they need to validate, or if you need to, kind of have your arguments ready why it does not needs a validation. You have your permanent resident card or you have a valid work permit. It gives you that opportunity to have that dialogue or that conversation. I just thank my stars that I didn't have to go through all this. But yes, people who were traveling with me, or a lot of students were stuck there at the airport. In fact, a lot of people with PR were as well stuck. So you might just want to be a little careful about the fact that you reach the airport a little ahead of time. And still, I would say it's just, sometimes it's just destiny that if they have to stop you, they may stop you. So unfortunately, this is something that we'll have to be mentally prepared for, that if we are stopped, the delay could be as long as 2 days. I know a couple of people personally who were there at the airport at the same time when I was there, who were stopped there for 2 days. For one day, literally, they did not even go out of the airport because their passports were with the immigration officers. And after a day, they were released to go out of the airport, do the hotel booking. So they had to stay another 2 days till the time their documents were getting validated. Once the documents are validated, they of course definitely let you go. So this is something that you will have to be mentally ready and
All right. So basically, I assume this video is gonna help lot of students, PR, citizens who are already stuck in India. So the next question is like, how was the immigration experience at Ethiopia when you are traveling from Ethiopia to Canada?
there are no such formalities that a student, PR, or a work permit holder needs to do. There is no such formality. It's the same process. You go to the ticketing counter, you give them all the documents. They definitely check your Canada visa, your Canada work permit, and your hotel booking as well. They also ask you if you've downloaded the ArriveCan app. So make sure that you have all this in place and in order. Then they also ask you for your PCR tests. If you have all these documents in place, then the process is pretty much straightforward. After your boarding pass is given to you, you just go to the immigration counter. And just a word of caution, I was stopped for my hand luggage being a little overweight. So that was just the minor hiccup, but I think that's a normal process. So just be careful so that you do not. My biggest, I think, learning from all this is avoid conversations at all costs. So if there is anything that will give room for an additional conversation, cut down on that, part. So for example, if my bag wasn't overweight, I wouldn't have to stop at that, counter where they were checking the bags. So then you can directly go to the immigration counter. Once I reach the immigration counter, He practically had no questions for me. He looked at my passport. He asked me to remove my face mask, just a validation. Once he had ID'd, once he validated my identity, he stamped my passport, and I was into the airport. I mean, towards my gate. So no major hiccups at the immigration. But the fellow passengers, as I previously mentioned, the fellow passengers had some ordeal in trying to get into the main gate. So just be careful and mentally ready for it. And I would say, avoid any major conversations at the airport. Just be silently, be confident, and just at the ticketing counter, have a small talk. Be very, very positive, be very confident that they're not going to stop you. The moment you show that you're nervous, immigration officers tend to get that signal or that message that there's something wrong. Just be very confident that this is your normal route. Canada government has given you this option to take an indirect route, so why not? We're not doing anything that is illegal. Sorry, that's just my take on it. But yes, be very, very confident. That's my tip for this entire journey.
All right, so the one last question arises is, how was your immigration experience at Canadian airport, that is YYZ, Toronto? So did they quote anything specifically for the indirect route?
I think, again, the experience was smooth. I did not have any issues. So the only thing is that you need to have hard copy, like I previously mentioned. Once you have your hard copies for everything, the first thing that they're going to ask you for is the PCR test. So the Public Health Administration has a counter dedicated at the airport where they'll check your documents. They just check your passport and your PCR test, and then they inquire where was this PCR test done. You just have to tell them, I'm taking an indirect route coming via Ethiopia, or whichever destination you select, whichever transit country you select. So once you give them your documents, they'll check the PCR test, and that's how they'll just give you a go ahead. Once you're done with that, then you go to the immigration desk or the immigration officer who will just validate your documents. They did not even ask me any questions, and honestly, I had been out of the country for quite some time, a couple of months, but no major questions were asked. He just took my documents, and for I think 5 or 10 minutes, he just told me that I need to validate something, and he just took my passport, my PCR test, and he just walked out of the immigration area. And that left me a little nervous because I was thinking maybe there's something wrong, or maybe I missed out something, or maybe they're just denying entry to me. I mean, worst case scenario. So after 5 or I think 7 minutes, he came back and he said, no, I just wanted to give some feedback to the Public Health Administration. It has nothing to do with you. Someone sitting there is not doing their job. So that was pretty much internal to them. I did not even ask him. I did not want to have any major conversations with anyone, like I said before. So that was pretty much it. They did not even, and one thing I would tell you, that they did not even stamp my passport. And I think it's their normal process. They did not stamp my passport that I've entered Canada, Toronto. But I think that's pretty much their process. And after that, yes, I walked out of the immigration area. I took my bags, and when you take your bags, then you are routed towards another area where you have to take your PSR, you have to take your PCR test. So you register for that PCR test. You can do that in advance. I did not do that. Go to switchhealth.com. You can register for your PCR test. That way you won't have to wait. So once the PCR testing was done, I was lucky that I did not have to wait. There were no queues. It was early morning. So once I took my PCR test, they will hand you a kit which will have the PCR test for the ninth day, which is a self assessment toolkit. So once they do that, then you are routed towards the area where you will have a taxi or a airport shuttle waiting for you. So you do not have to go anywhere else. There would be officers standing at every checkpoint, and you will directly be routed towards the taxi that you need to take. In case if your hotel does not provide the shuttle, then you need to board on the taxi. You do not have to pay for the taxi. It's all funded by the hotel. And one thing very important is the immigration officer did ask me for the hotel reservation. So make sure that you have your hotel reservations. I'm sorry, I missed out, I think, a couple of important things. So the Public Health Administration, before that, there was another officer who actually asked me about my ArriveCan app, my work permit, the hotel reservation document. I just had to show him on my cell phone, but again, advisable that you need to have a printout or you can take a printout. So these were the documents that were shown or I had to show him. And then finally, once I got my bags, I took the PCR test, I boarded the taxi for my hotel. I reached the hotel for the 3 day mandatory quarantine. And at the hotel, pretty much straightforward check-in. I just had to show my passport and my PCR test from the last destination, which is Ethiopia, and that's how I was checked in. And my results for the PCR test came within like maybe 26 hours. So I just stayed at the hotel for one night, and second day by noon I was out of the hotel, around like late afternoon. So around 3 o'clock I was out of the hotel, and that was pretty much it. But having said that, you still have to do the mandatory 3 day booking at the hotel. Again, by God's grace, I was lucky. I did not ask for that, but the hotel, manager kind of offered me to refund the last day's amount. So I was charged only for 2 nights. But that may happen, that may not happen. You can always check. I definitely did not check, but he offered, and that was absolutely great for me. So this was pretty much my overall experience once I reached Toronto.
That's really wonderful. So, Priti, thanks a lot for being with us. This video is gonna help a lot of students who are already stuck in India and they are wandering here and there. They are contacting each and every agent, and might be the agents are charging a hell lot of money. So, I guess this video is gonna help a lot of students. So, what is the suggestion which you gonna, which you want to give to the students, PR citizen? I mean, whosoever who is traveling from India to Canada via the indirect route. So, what are your suggestions?
Not the least. So when you ask me any recommendations for any PR or PR holders, students or work permit holders who are traveling to Toronto, just be very, very confident. These are subjective things. Just be very, very confident. Do not look nervous. Be very comfortable with yourself. Do not have much of luggage. That way, it's easy for you to maneuver between all the transit points, the airports, the hotels, and stuff like that. Carry food with yourself if you can, because it's a long journey. Definitely carry some cash with yourself. If Canadian cash, then it's great. If not, then US dollars are fine, because even in Ethiopia the expectation is everybody asks for a tip. So if you have something, then that way it works out much better for you. Be very, very confident, travel light, and avoid major conversations. I would say do not have many, or do not indulge yourself in any long talks with anyone. The less you speak is better for you. That's what I would feel. So, whatever question is being asked to you, just answer that much. Do not go overboard with, do not get excited and answer too much. Just have minimal conversations, but maintain a very positive demeanor, smile, and just keep appreciating for all the work the ticketing counter is doing or the immigration officers are doing. Because coming from my personal experience, the immigration officer in India, I actually ended up having a very light conversation with him, and he actually checked with me how can his son come to Toronto for work and stuff like that. So have a very, very positive attitude. I think that goes a long way in making your journey smooth and flawless. I had a similar experience at the ticketing counter in Ethiopia, where I had a small talk and I was, kind of being very pleasant with the lady. So she ended up appreciating me for my attitude, because not a lot of passengers were being very cooperative. So just have a very, very positive frame of mind. Nobody's trying to stop you. You just need to have a positive mindset when you walk into the airport. Apart from that, I don't think I would have any other tip at this point of time. But yeah, I think every case is different. be ready for whatever may come across. Just be confident, just be positive, and make sure you travel light. I'm reiterating because otherwise it can be really, really very hectic if you're not traveling light. Book lounges wherever you have long layovers. That will make your journey very comfortable because you need to rest up, you need to hydrate yourself because it's a long 3 or 4 day long journey. And check the hotel in case if you like in Ethiopia, I already checked in advance that worst case scenario, if you have to extend your stay, then would they have availability or not? So make sure that you have that, addressed before you travel because that ways you won't have to change the hotel in an unknown country. And Ethiopia is great. I didn't have any issues. But when you're in an unknown country, then, you're just transiting. So try not to go out or just be safe. That's what I would say. We need to be safe in an unknown country for all the reasons. And right now, we need to be safe because of the COVID situation. So just wear your mask all the time, sanitize, protect yourself because it's very important for you to reach safely to Toronto without, getting infected or without getting contracted with the disease. Other than that, I think overall my experience was really pleasant. I don't have any complaints, and I think my apprehension was more before I traveled. During the travel or after my travel, I was absolutely, I mean, overjoyed that I took this route and it worked out so well for me. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions. I'm sure Weber can let me know if there are any follow-up questions. And wishing you all the best. I hope everyone makes it. Whoever needs it, everyone makes it. And please stay safe. Happy journey to all of you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Weber. Thank you for this opportunity.
All right, so thank you so much, Priti. I want to thank you once again for devoting your precious time with us, sharing out your entire experience from India to Canada via the indirect route. And this video specifically gonna help lot of students who are already here in India. Not only the students, but also the PR citizens. So I would request you all to please share this video as max as possible because the ultimate aim, ultimate goal is to help the people who are stuck in India, who are in the deadlock conditions. So I hope this video is gonna help you all. So बहुत सारे लोग कह रहे थे यार कि आप किसी एक जो बंदा ऑलरेडी ट्रैवल कर चुका है सो मेक द वीडियो विद दैट पर्टिकुलर पर्सन सो दैट वी कैन एक्सपीरियंस द लाइव एक्सपीरियंस फ्रॉम दैट पर्सन. सो दिस वीडियो इज़ फॉर यू गाइज एंड स्टे सेफ. मिलता हूँ अगली वीडियो में विद अनदर इंटरेस्टिंग कंटेंट. Take care. Bye bye.